Yeah, I had a passion for the boating and marine industry. The pleasure boat interest is very high, and the boat ownership amongst the Swedish people is quite high. I went to the university and got a Bachelor of Arts, and then I studied marketing and shipping economy, and I was working for a shipping company in Sweden, Wallenius Lines, for almost 20 years. The last couple of years I was in charge of the finance department, so I became into the economics of things. And of course, at hindsight, this is what it all boils down to.
Lars is a real perfectionist. He's a visionary. This product is a visionary type of product. He looks at the long game. I can tell you, I'm a hard worker. He's a harder worker. He's dedicated.
Family oriented, you know what I mean? I gotta say, anybody had a problem, personal problems, or they always stood behind them.
I really believe it. You know, he's made every dollar that he's made by counting pennies.
So he was very conscientious of what he spent, right down to the company vehicles. You know, don't buy new, just buy a new engine if it blew up.
It's a different culture, and I think a lot of it comes from just valuing every minute, every screw, every washer. It's led to certainly the success of Lars. It's led to the success of Teakdecking. Definitely has set the tone.
He was all about customer service. And he always told me, you know, you do a perfect job and the people come back. And that was his advertisement.
He knew everybody's name. He knew their wife's name. He knew their kid's name. That, to me, it showed that he cared. And I think that's the most important thing for an employer, is that the people love the place they work at.
We were given an opportunity, one colleague and myself, to travel to Miami and assist a new ship-owning company in a new venture. They purchased the cruise line operation out from Wallenius Lines, and we were given the opportunity to help the new owner to facilitate their taking over. So we decided to look for opportunities here, and we were working in consulting business for ship owners and with crewing and technical expertise.
They knew when they purchased the business that United States was the goal.
We imported a sailing boat made in Sweden called a Maxi, and we equipped that boat with teak decks. So that's where we came into contact with the inventor, and we interested the inventor to, why don't we make a venture and take it over to Florida? Here is where a lot of vessels that have a need for teak decks. When we moved over here, we had the US and the Canadian patents included, which I bought from the inventor.
The original company that moved to America from Sweden was originally called GMT. There was 5 partners, the inventor and his brother.
That was in 1982, and we started to produce in 83.
It's very expensive to have a boat out of the water. And the longer it is out of the water, the more money it costs the customer.
Traditionally, all teak decks were hand-laid, bent one plank at a time.
Boats being on the hard in the yard, uncontrolled environment, it's costly. So Teakdecking, their solution was measure the boat, do a template, come into a shop, controlled environment, build a modular deck, put it in a crate, send it to the boat. Your installation time on site, a half, a third, a quarter of the time. So you're saving time at the yard level. It was more cost effective.
It really changed the timeline on the amount of time on the vessel compared to the old ways of hand laying it. all the time was spent building at the shop, so that way the vessel can actually use the boat and then come back and install the prefab decks.
We would just build the panel and send a trim kit, just boards that would the carpenter would make the trim on site. We don't bring boats to us and work on them. We always go to the boat, because the boats that get work done on them, they're not just getting a teak deck, they're getting a paint job, they're getting engine work, they're getting all of the other things that they need. So our goal was to be able to do all of that work here in our factory and get them back in the water as fast as we could. So the better we could design and build our teak deck here in our factory, then we could spend less time on their boat and get them done, and that was his goal.
It meant that they could do the fiberglass hull and the interior first, and then put the teak decks on as part of the process near the end of the project.
All the work is being done at the shop, not on board. You know, and the quality of our teak is by far the best.
I bought the patent from the inventor, so we were kind of insulated from too much, or at least the threat of infringing on our patent rights made them hesitate. But you know, they tried to do it themselves, but they didn't succeed very easily.
I started a carpentry business up in Clearwater, but I started specializing in teak decks. We kept getting orders and I would place them, and between us we started making the system work better. In fact, we even ended up selling a 150-foot motor yacht that we ended up putting the system down. But that's when we realized there was a big potential for this. And as I would be talking to other boat yards or other carpenters, they were also intrigued. Lars and I got to talking one day. It's hard running your own business. We were doing more and more just decking. He's getting bigger, I'm getting bigger. I really believed in the product. I didn't want to see this fail. The inventor and their brother kind of wanted to go back to Sweden, and Lars was living in Miami at the time, and he was one of the owners. So him and Ann moved up and started running the factory.
We ended up here in Manatee County with a small building, 10,000 square feet on 21st Street, where we started to produce.
Small shop, 15, 20 people. There was a lot being done, and you know, with the amount of people that we had.
We were working on cruise ships. At that time, there were a lot of cruise ships that had teak decking on their vessels, and we continued that, and our contacts in the cruise line sector made it easy to get into contact with these people running the cruise line deck department. But even so, the glue down system was a bit difficult to sell, because a shipbuilder doesn't believe that you can glue something down and it holds up.
We were building decks. We would make a stick template or a pattern of some kind and make panels to that pattern. We would not trim the decks here in the shop. We would send it out for the installer. Then we've developed from there, where we made better templates. We trimmed panels in and made a full trim kit here in the factory for the installers to do, so that we save time on the boat.
The product started to sell itself. We named the company Teakdecking Systems because we're a system. We moved from the 10,000 square foot facility. We were already kind of out of space at the other plant. We moved to a 30,000 square foot location up at Fruitville Road. The layout floor was only about 100 feet. We were starting out growing that, but then when we got an opportunity to do a 200-foot sailboat, and we were in even our second location, we didn't have a large enough layout floor for that vessel.
Back then, anything 100 foot or larger was big. So over 25 years ago, we were happy to have one 100 foot boat a year. And our trim floor at the time was about 60 feet.
This is a very special sailboat, and the name of the boat is Addicts. The boat was built in Spain. They had put a teak deck down on it. The boat was extended a few years later in England.
At the time, I was the production supervisor, so it was my job to build it. So we would build a section, move it forward, just a piece of it, build the next section and crate it up and ship it out to them. Then we'd build another section. And it was the first one that we did that was way too large for our shop. Apprehensive, maybe a little bit, but we were ready. We were ready for the challenge. We wanted to get into the big boats.
That was really the beginning of where we are today. Because at that point, a motor yacht is one thing, but when you can do a world-class schooner in a small boat yard, in a tent, captains talk. Lars is a very smart businessman. We kept coming to him and explaining to him to get started every day, we're losing an hour for 10 guys. So we kept saying, you know, we need another building. He thinks before he moves, he didn't say a lot to us, and he started looking for a building. He found this building. It was pretty much an abandoned trailer factory.
And within a few years, we were wanting to put tents up, building outbuildings and everything. We needed more space. We filled it quickly, and we just never thought we would ever fill it up.
We took a big step in 1996 to move here from smaller places. Up there was 10,000 square feet, and then in Sarasota, Palmer Boulevard, it became like 30,000 square feet. And then coming up here, it was 3 times as big. Kind of a daring risk, but I took it. In Sweden, they already had made caulking from a German manufacturer that was tested out and purpose built or mixed for us. And we continued after 1983 when we had moved here, but then we were too small for this company to continue, so we had to test out other manufacturers of caulking, and we used them to refine the product.
Teakdecking couldn't find proper caulking that met the standards of teakdecking, so they went out and developed their own caulking. And now SIS 440 is known all over the world as the best caulking for a teak deck.
And the glue we continued to purchase from Denmark. It was a polyurethane glue, but we found out using a polyurethane glue was a bit more difficult than, so we went over to use epoxies instead.
It just really wasn't good enough. We needed something better. That was one of the big pushes, is that we made a product that was not hazardous. And we did hire a chemist that we had on the property, worked for only us, and he helped us develop our epoxies that we use. He also helped with our caulking.
So we made our own glues that are friendly to the environment, so it spreads well and the installer doesn't have a lot of trouble getting the panels into the glue.
Most decks would get reseamed every 5 years. Addicts, the one we've talked about that we built 26 years ago or so, still has our original caulking in it.
In the beginning years, we had teak cleaner that we purchased from Denmark that was refined also. And of course, with the environmental interest from the population, it became an interest to find something that is more eco-friendly.
We challenged our chemists to come up with a cleaner that actually cleaned but would be biodegradable in the water. We put a big push on the eco cleaners Our products, when we started, we wanted to make sure that we could get it EPA approved, and we did.
The strategy that we employed was to give the customers of ours the maintenance products that they would benefit from having the same type and be able to clean the surfaces. We wanted something that was more durable and a cleaner that was more gentle to the deck and the caulking.
Our products work well and they're easy to use. We don't need any primers or special cleaners to use our caulking or anything like that.
We've added, I think, 4 new products over the course of the last year and a half. And now we want to expand our distribution for our products. You know, the more products are sold, the more people understand about teak decks and composite decks that we do. You know, they feed off of each other, they'll build off of each other, and we just want to make sure that we're in every corner of the world, region of the world, to serve our customer best that we can.
You know, I couldn't have done it without my wife. She died in 2011, so she's no longer with us, but we were not in a position where we could pay people to do things. We had to do it ourselves, more or less, and not take out any huge salaries to live. So it was tough in the beginning, but could not fail. We had to keep on working in order to get where it could afford, where the company could afford to pay for services and employees.
Ann did administration for the school system in Sweden, and she was very good about building systems.
She basically ran the office. I mean, the secretary, the HR, you know, she was pretty amazing, you know, and again, family oriented.
They each ran their own departments, and they worked very well as a team together.
Ann was very kind, very helpful, always helped me when I needed it. My first job when I started that first day was putting teak cleaning powder into 5-gallon buckets and weighing it and labeling it. And I've gone from there through production supervisor, installer, and then production manager, and she always helped me with everything that we needed to manage. At one point we had 85 employees in production, and always helpful and kind.
Ann organized every year for the employees and their families Christmas event. Every year we would set up tables, games for the kids, of course, a nice lunch or dinner. When Ann passed away, they started a scholarship program. My daughter went through college debt-free because of the scholarship program.
They have the Ann and Lars Scholarship Fund. And it's also good for your kids, or even to higher educate yourself as well.
I had 3 children. All 3 of those children have gone to college. They were a part of the Ann and Lars Scholarship Program.
I just think it's in our nature to give back, to build a team, and to make sure that we were a family.
We ended up in 2008 to make the suggestion that we sell the company to the employees in way of an ESOP.
Lars turned this into an ESOP. It's something he didn't have to do. He probably could have sold this company for a lot more than selling it to the employees for the value of the inventory at the time.
What an ESOP is where the owner sells the company not to one individual, but sells it back to the employees. So we all became owners.
Those are all part of our core values, those simple acts. And it's also for a legacy.
Now that we've become an ESOP, Lars allowed us to purchase the company from him. Now I am a part owner of the company I've been a part of for the last 32 years.
It's of interest to see that the people that have been participating in building the company are getting the fruits of it.
And having that rich history is certainly important. Having a culture of family values is important. Having great benefits is important. Being an ESOP company, 7,000 ESOPs in the United States out of millions of corporations, we're a minority, but having a stake in the company is huge. For someone to come here and work here 10, 20, 30 years, they're going to get a nice check at the end of that time. Companies don't do any of that stuff anymore. Again, it goes back to that rich history, family culture, things like that I think are important today because we're a minority.
The market for the production boat, we're asking for, can you make it less expensive?
Going back to Lars, what's the vision? Where's people are going to less maintenance free? Teak was getting expensive.
Today's society is so much faster. They want a hose and go option, and composites definitely provide you that, as well as the sustainability issues and things like that, which are certainly a benefit. But it also is an answer to giving our customers another option. It's diversification of our product line.
So you can combine the two together. So put the teak where it's necessary and use the composite in areas that you don't have to have teak.
We're quoting a boat over in Europe right now, 72-meter conversion vessel. We'll be doing teak decks on probably 2/3 of it and composite on 1/3 of it. So in the working decks, like up around anchoring, hardware and things like that, we'll do composite. Tender garages, we'll do composite. So any of those working areas or wet areas, things like that, the composites are definitely something that people are taking a look at. So we went to one of our domestic production boat partners, offered them the idea of doing composites on one of their decks, probably about 6 years ago. A little bit reluctant at first, but they went along with it. Fast forward today, 40% of their boats are being sold with composite on it.
We have so many options nowadays with composites and everything that we can do new things, new ideas, make them look fancy and everything.
The composite area is going like the teak deck business. Instead of buying somebody else's product, is build our own product and see how we could keep making it better and better and better. And that's what we do now with our composites.
We can do new things, new ideas, make them look fancy and everything.
It's also helping us spread the natural resource of teak. Blending the two products together is really actually making a better boat at the end of the day. We have our factory here in Sarasota, Florida, of course, with an installation team out of here. And our installation team's kind of hybrid. It's guys from the trim floor as well as people that just travel. And we rotate people in and out of that. Of course, then we have an operation in Fort Lauderdale. We service all those yards in Fort Lauderdale.
Having office here, we're in the capital or the yachting capital of the world, right here. 10 minutes away, we have every marina. And so, yeah, it's definitely a great location. All our guys travel. So this is why we can send people to Georgia or Fiji or wherever all over the world. We're on-site installers.
We have a boat that we quoted here in 2020. We were going to replace the decks, and then the pandemic and all that happened, and they didn't want to get off their boat. So fast forward to today, same boat calls us. It's over in Europe, and so our team in Valencia, Spain is quoting it again. The boat's going to be in Europe. They want to do it in the Med. It's perfect for us. So we have that. We had a 286-foot vessel that we've done service work on it for years and years out of our team in Spain. We did a fair amount of maintenance and service work on it in Barcelona. They came across the Atlantic, got in some bad weather, had some things happen, so they needed some teak work done when they arrived into Miami. So they called our project manager in Valencia, Spain and said, hey, do you know anyone in Miami? He's like, well, we have an office in Fort Lauderdale. So our regional manager meets the boat comes in on Tuesday, he's on the boat Wednesday, he walks the boat with the captain, and he's dealing with the same company. So it's magic for them, it's awesome. We know the boat really well because we just talked to our project engineer over there, and he gives us all the detail and the history of it, and it becomes a seamless deal.
We're doing the big ocean coves in the Netherlands, so we're doing our CAD here in Sarasota, sending it to Spain, having our templates cut there, and so we're using the technology to build decks around the world.
We recently had a fairly large sailboat wanting a new deck on it, And we just didn't have the capacity here. The boat being out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, it was just as easy for us to send a team from Spain to go digitize it. We can build the decks in Spain just as easy as we can build them here and ship them wherever. You know, our clients traditionally 30 years ago were pretty much in South Florida. Fort Lauderdale was the yachting capital of the world. As boats got bigger, the world got smaller. Those big boats got bigger, and they're not just in Fort Lauderdale or in the Caribbean anymore. Now they're in the Med. Now they're in the Indian Ocean. It's given us the ability to better meet the customer's need. If we can do it here out of our operation in Sarasota, Florida, great. And if we need to do it out of our operation in Europe to meet a schedule or a destination or something like that, then we have that option.
We have a vast knowledge. Just in custom boats alone, we've done over 13,500. That's not counting any production boats. If we added that in, we would have another 30,000 square feet. So we've worked on boats from all over the world. Today, this is our biggest strength, is the amount of knowledge that we have in most style boats. We've done military, battleships, but we've done as small as 13-foot whalers.
So it's not just the patent that makes us, it's the knowledge of what we know and how to build a boat.
We really worked on our reputation, became to be known as the best. And we had people shipping boats to us from all over the country and did work for a lot of the big domestic boat builders and insurance companies. That's one thing about Teakdecking is they've always lived up to their commitments and probably have gone beyond their commitments. There's not a customer that we haven't, earned their respect and lived up to our commitments.
For us my wife and me coming from Sweden, we were getting out of that system and lost the future over there in employment and so on, and we choose this, and it became necessary to continue to strive. You couldn't give up. There was no alternative.
I don't know that he imagined it being this big. Like I said, when I started with him, we were probably 15 or 20 people, I think.
I don't think he had a vision of turning this big. Started in the cruise ships, and then Alan took it to the yachting industry. And then I think once it went to the yachting industry, it really, took off.
To take pleasure in seeing many of the employees that I'm still recognized by them. I know their names, and it's nice to be part of it.
A lot of our success is that we believe in perfection and doing it the best possible way. And we have not lost that to this day. We believe in making sure we have happy customers.